Thank you so much for joining us today. I think what's really interesting for the audience is that they might not know this, but you're both in some way responsible for the way that the majority of them interact with their smartphones, with their tablets, which I think gives you a really unique perspective on tech. I guess the first question I'd love to ask you is, what do you think's gone wrong with our relationship with technology?
Yeah, I can start. Thank you so much for having us. It's really great to be here and to talk to you again. I think it's important to note that, in fact, a lot has gone right in tech, and obviously, we're tech optimists at heart. We like that approach. That's how we work and we build, and I think we're really proud of a lot of the things that we've built and what they've enabled in terms of really connecting people, creating opportunities for business, and a lot of success for a lot of people. So I think it is important to note that there is a lot of things that have gone right. But there also are things that inevitably, when you get to the point where we're at a certain level of saturation, where there's a lot of really fast growth, where there's a lot of people that have moved fast and broken a lot of things, that inevitably things are going to go wrong. And so it's not surprising that there are things that we aren't happy with.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
And do you think? Sorry, Imran, go ahead.
I was just going to add, Greg, thanks for having us. Absolutely, and the rest of the wide team as well. We're chuffed to be here. I think what Bethany was saying also has a little bit of history behind it as well. Just in terms of where we've come over the last 35 years in terms of compute in general, we have gone from having tools that were created so people could create things that brought them certain types of efficiencies or insight that have just really multiplied in numbers as technology has progressed, right? And things have become increasingly more and more personal. And the devices have been created that way. We were blessed to be a part of that. A lot of those devices, as you mentioned, in essence, the more people that use these devices and the more people that depend on them, that sets things up for things to actually go wrong if you don't have the right approach or you don't have the right intention.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, Bethany, I'd love to get your thoughts. Just following on from what Imran was saying. Obviously, some amazing things happening over the last 35 years. Hardware and software really connecting us. But do you think it's also to some degree isolating us from the world around us?
Yeah, I think absolutely that can happen, and we've seen it happen. And Imran mentioned intentions, which I think is a really important piece of the puzzle, which is it is really important that you set out with good intentions and good motivations, and that you're really clear about how it could go wrong. And in fact, you talk about how it can go wrong. And it's part of the process and the creative process of building that you discuss as a team. Where can this break? Where can it cause problems? And not only from the perspective of the impact it might have on everybody, but maybe the impact it might have on one specific group. And I think that process of talking through the potential negative outcomes is something that isn't really that common. It hasn't been that common. It's mostly about, where are we going to benefit from this? Where are we going to make a bunch of money? Like, all the metrics that people traditionally follow for what defines success are around these metrics about how much usage something is getting, or how much revenue something is making, or how many ads you're selling, or whatever the case is. But very rarely is someone asking founders or companies, well, where are the metrics about where you're getting it wrong? Like, and what are you doing about it? And I think thinking about that piece when you're building is really critical.
And Imran, just building on what Bethany just said there, it's really what you're hoping to do with Humane, kind of, in a larger sense, move the industry away from this kind of, move fast and break things mentality, the growth at all cost mentality, and rethink in some ways the way that, technology companies build products.
That's right. I think one of the things that has been pervasive in this industry, the valley that we're sitting in right now, is this concept of moving faster and breaking things. I think what's happened over time is that not only have we been breaking things, but we've also been breaking people as well. And so we start to see Again, as that dependency on technology becomes more and more pervasive, in that we use technology for every aspect of our lives, so does everything that comes with it, the emotional and physical burdens that we have when we actually interact with things. Setting up the conditions for a different way of doing things is what we're really all about. We know that if we take a completely different approach to how we build, how we talk about things, how we educate our potential customers, and how we actually move technology forward through that ethos, is really how we bring new change. And that's one of the things that's really unique for us, in that we are in a position to be able to rethink a lot of things that other companies can't. Mainly because we know where we need to go, because we were actually involved with a lot of how we got here at the same time, and it's really complicated in some ways. But we do think there's a better way, and there's a better way that has aspects of every part of the business.
Yeah, Bethany, have you got any thoughts on that? I mean, as someone who's obviously got deep experience in the Valley, how do we move the industry away from the model that Imran described?
The truth of it is that it takes a lot of work. It takes time, it takes money. And I think one of the things that really helped us from day one was we had advocates and supporters and advisors that were saying to us, tell us how much this is going to cost, put a dollar value to this shift and this change in culture, because it's not going to be free, it's not going to be cheap, and it's going to take a lot of hard work. And it's not only hard work from Imran and I, it's hard work from every single team member that comes and joins Humane. And in fact, we have to talk about it every day, that if we really want to change not only the way our products are built, the way we treat our employees, the way we treat our teammates, the way we work with third parties and with vendors, the way that we think about the impact on our customers, that we in fact have to slow down, and it's going to take more time and more money. And I think that's really important to think about, that the model has traditionally been this, move fast and break things. And that's how you're going to create innovation. And that's how you're going to make a lot of money. And that's how you're going to be successful. And in fact, when you take the route that we're trying to take, which is we think that long-term success and building a more successful business over time, having a greater impact in many areas and bringing a bigger benefit to our customers, is going to involve us from day one building this foundation of values and doing the hard work every single day to make sure that we're aligning with those values. It's important that you find the right partners to be on that journey with you, and they have to believe in that too, and believe that ultimately it's going to end up in a better position for everybody.
Right, and some of the partners you've got on that journey with you, you've attracted some very big name investors, Mark Benioff and Sam Altman, just to name a couple. Imran, clearly they believe in the product you're building, but clearly they're going to want a return on their investment. How can you kind of maintain your vision when there's real pressure on you for growth within the business, do you think?
Yeah, the pressure's coming in from all sides. Right? The pressure is coming in from the customers demanding something better. They're demanding some level of innovation that really brings them beyond what we have right now. The stagnation that we feel in the 15-year S-curve that has plateaued or soon to plateau for some people. I think it's depending on where you are in terms of your adeptness and your dependency, it maybe have even plateaued earlier than now. But I think the metric really has to be not about how much money can you make, but more about what kind of impact can you actually have. The fast break things is really driven by those sort of metrics about how can you actually make as much money as quickly as you can. But when you actually stop and you say, how do we actually think deeply and think creatively to have lasting impact over the long term? That's a far better return than what the move fast break thing thesis brings to things. And I think that's one of the things that really excites the people that have been advocating for us and been backing us, is that it's a completely different model, but it's one of those ideas and ways of thinking that's so necessary right now, and it's so unique compared to what everybody else is doing, and it's one of the things that really has a lot of people attracted to what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't have to be either or. You can build incredibly innovative, wildly ambitious, really exciting products that become consumer phenomenons and make a ton of money and be very successful while not sacrificing, the health and well-being of your employees, or leveraging, certain groups of people to make money for other groups of people, or having a really negative impact, whether it's socially, economically, environmentally. You can actually do both, and I think that that's something that was really important to us from the beginning. That we made it very clear to every person that joined our team and every investor that was going to be on board that we care about both, and we believe it's possible to do both. We believe we can be very successful, but we also are going to care a lot about this other thing. And you see in Silicon Valley now, there are some people that are taking a very different approach. They're saying, we're not going to care about the other thing at all. We think that it's all about the bottom line, and they're taking that approach. And I think it's not going to be successful, because it turns out that a lot of employees nowadays are demanding employers and companies that do care about both. And you see that in kind of the up and coming generations, that it's really important to them that their companies do care about that.
Well, we couldn't have such experts in product with us here at Wired Smarter without really kind of getting into that. I'm really intrigued to kind of get your sense, both of you. Maybe I don't know, maybe Imran, maybe you can start. If you guys could just walk us through the process when you're designing something, when you're building product. What are the underpinnings for you, meaning Humane, in terms of the way that you're building product, you're building technology? What are you thinking about? What's the process?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind is, where do we want to be as a society? Where do we want to be as individuals? How do we want to progress? And then I think we start to really think deeply about, how do we set up the right path for all of that to actually happen? How do we create the right foundation, the right architecture for all of these ideas to actually grow in the right appropriate way? And, I think what we try to do is we avoid some of the issues that have been plaguing the industry as a whole. This idea that you can bolt things on to existing ideas and expect these Frankenstein projects to actually do well for people, and that's really just again, going back to this idea of when you're just building really quickly and you're not thinking forward enough to really understand what the consequences of what you're building are. You're really creating shabby architecture that's really going to fail at some point. I mean, it literally is designed to fail. For us, we take a really deep approach that is not unlike how an architect would approach a building or a space, in that you have to really understand, how is the space being used? How is it impacting your life? And in our case, it's our digital lives, isn't it? And that's a very real concept. And we spend the vast majority of our lives connected. That is something that we have to start taking seriously. It is something that's not going to go away. The question is, what do we actually want that relationship to be like? What do we actually want out of our devices and our services and our connectivity? And so that's how we think about things. And then that's how we build. We build in a way that allows for organic growth. And it just seems like it's all actually been thought about ahead of time, because it has. And that's how you build for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Bethany, anything you'd like to add to that in terms of the way that you kind of, the process and the build and the underpinning for that?
Yeah, I think, we talk a lot about the importance of a diverse team. And I think the reason we feel it's so critical, not only because, when you're talking about AI and the development of things that are these emerging technologies, which in fact have to be taught in some way. And if you teach them from a team that's not diverse, then you're going to get a solution that doesn't account for that. But not only with that, I think we believe our ethos is that we believe that the product is better when it's built from a collaborative environment where a diverse team is inputting their ideas, and has a seat at the table and is part of the conversation and helps us come up with a better solution. And I think we tell everybody when they join Humane that, the product is going to be influenced by you. There's going to be a piece of you in this product. And I think that it's really important that the team members feel that way, and that the collaborative design process involves that, because we do believe that, it's important that you have diverse perspectives when you're building a product, and that ultimately the product is better because of it. And so for us, it's the combination of the diverse team. It's the combination of our belief that you can take care of your employees and build a safe environment, both psychologically and from a well-being perspective, and have this diverse input, and that ultimately those two things will be felt in the product, that people will actually feel that when they're using the product, as opposed to a place where those things are not prioritized.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. We're pretty much out of time, but I've got one final question I'd love you both to answer. Maybe Bethany, you could kick off. So give us a sense, in an ideal world, how our relationship with technology might be different. If you keep building the way you'd like to keep building in say 5 years, what would that look like, do you think?
We talk a lot about, we use the word natural a lot, and actually I think we've had a conversation with you about this before, and for us it's about building technology that almost disappears, where it feels very human. And what that means is that it's ultimately obvious when you use it. And people have said this after they've experienced what we're building, some of their first reactions is, it's so obvious. It's so obvious to me that this would be the answer now that I've seen it. And I think that to us is what natural means. And I think what we're really trying to do is build a product where the hardware and the software almost disappears, and you feel like you are in control. And I think we definitely feel that there is a balance issue, that things are out of balance, that we have lost control. And our hope is that the future that we live in is a place where humans are put back in control, where we feel like we're driving, where we feel like the hardware and the software has disappeared and everything feels incredibly natural. But at the same time, you get that superhuman benefit of these emerging technologies. And that's really our goal.
Yeah, sure. Imran, any further thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, which you said 5 years. 5 years from now, I think the future should hopefully be a lot more humane than it actually is right now. And in that we have people using, enjoying, and taking benefit of technologies that are actually relieving them of the burden of them being able to access and create and do new things never been able to imagine before. But they've done so with the right kinds of protections, the right kinds of awareness, the right kinds of regulations, or at least the beginnings of, so that their ideas, their privacy, their data is protected, and they have control over it in the right way, and that they actually understand what it all means as well. And I think technology plays a big part of that as well, just really helping people understand not only the benefit, but the underpinnings of what they're doing. And I think one of the things that we're really excited about is that we're looking forward to actually changing the conversation about why people should care about these things in a different way. Ultimately, to not have to worry about them, as Bethany said, the ultimate interface with computing is one that completely disappears. And when that completely disappears, then we turn back to our humanity. And that's when everything starts to get resolved in the right way, right? That's when we start to care about climate control in the right way. That's when we start to care about other issues that are plaguing us. And we start to actually have the right kinds of emerging technologies that help us filter out and figure out what kind of information is actually of value and what's actually not truth as well. So I'm hoping the next 5 years we can do that as a society, all of us. Humane's going to do a small part of that, but we're hoping that we can rally people around the way we're building and the way we're thinking about things to do it in their own respective domains. And that's really exciting to me.
And that is a really nice, optimistic way to end the 3 days of talks about technology and business and where we're going next. So thank you, both of you, so much for joining us today. And it's really intriguing to talk to you because I think you're leading a really important conversation around the future of technology. Obviously, lots of speculation online about and excitement about what you might be up to. So it would be great if, in a year or two or whenever you're ready, we'd love to follow your journey and we'd love to have you back to talk more about what you've learned and what your perspective is on the way things are going. So thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
We'd love to be back. Thank you for having us again. Take care.
Very welcome.